Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah, we'll begin in just a few minutes. In just a minute. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين سيدنا ونبينا مولانا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to everybody. I hope everyone is doing good so far on another Jum'ah, or I guess if we think about it, a week without Jum'ah. Today we just wanted to share a little bit of a reminder, inshallah, during this time, because this is a time when all of us really feel like, we just want something. There's kind of that void. If you don't have any kind of reminder, if you don't hear anything being talked about, you just feel kind of, empty. And it's just like this thing that just, it's like if you've been doing the same thing every single time you do something, like you're just the same motions, then you just get so used to it that when you don't have it, it's jarring. You reach for something and it's not there. It's like, oh. And it's actually, subhanAllah, if you think about it, it's a lot like Ramadan, because in Ramadan, what do? We start to step away from things that we are so accustomed to. So it goes from just reaching for the cup of water, and all of a sudden I can't take that, right? You have to kind of pull back. So today, inshallah, I wanted to kind of talk about, I think there's kind of a fatigue sort of happening almost of talking about coronavirus, talking about COVID-19 and all the issues that are arising from it. So I wanted to talk about something somewhat indirectly related to it. And I think this can be really construed as a general message in a lot of ways as well. But one thing that you begin to realize when you start to do some study of the Quran is how it tries very clearly to emphasize how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who is in control of things. And what's fascinating is that humans, we as mankind, have a habit of constantly trying to seek that control. And if you start to try and look at your own actions, all of our actions, in that prism, from that paradigm, you start to kind of notice a pattern. What we really are seeking at the end of the day is control. Because if you are seeking to earn lots of wealth, what does lots of wealth give us the opportunity to do? It allows us to have flexibility, and it allows us to be able to have control over our circumstances. I can dictate, my transportation. I can dictate my accommodations. I can dictate all these things, my food. All these things are choices that I can make. They're decisions I can make, rather than things that are forced upon me because of the fact that I don't have the resources to be able to make those decisions. And so when you think about what often our objectives are at the very core of it, it really is control in a lot of ways. And, it even extends to death, because all of us are constantly seeking to control the environment around us in order to protect ourselves from death. And that's okay. We should seek to live as long a life as possible, not so that we can gain more and more and more, but so that we can continue to have opportunities to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And, I'm always reminded of this athar, this story in the court of Sulaiman alayhi salam. And Sulaiman alayhi salam, of course, had control over things, including the wind, many different elements, and he had control over the army of the jinn. And Sulaiman alayhi salam, he had a man that was in his court, And this man that was in his court, he noticed that there was another man in the court who was just staring at him, just staring at him, just kind of just looking him down. And every time he kind of moved, just kept the stare right on him. Blank face, angry almost expression. And so this man, he's just getting freaked out. And he's worried. And finally, when the what's going on ends, he goes to Sulaiman alayhi salam, and he says that, I think that I need to get out of here. That guy's staring at me. And it's what actually happens is it's the angel of death. And so this man asked Sulaiman alayhi salam to send him to, and in some parts of it, in some versions of it says to India, to Hind. And Sulaiman alayhi salam obliges. When he sends him, what happens? This man gets there, and all of a sudden he dies immediately when he gets there. And the angel of death comes to Sulaiman alayhi salam after, and when he's kind of asked about what he was doing, he says that I was staring at that man because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had told me that I was to take his life in that land where you sent him. And I had no idea how I was going to be doing that when he's here and you're there. He's here and that's so far away. So the idea being, this man tried to even control his circumstances in that moment. And yet he was not able to get the control that he sought. He wasn't able to escape from something that was always meant for him. And that is really the crux of where we find ourselves, whether it's now or really at any time. Because at the end of the day, the one who has ultimate control is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that cannot be denied. It's not something up for debate. It's not a discussion. It's a fact. I always look at some verses from Surah Waqi'ah that always really, really hit me hard in terms of how they show the control and how they show how little control we truly do have. This is part of the beauty of the Quran, that if you really listen and you really reflect on it, you begin to pick up on these things, that what is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling me? And it starts, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not in the beginning of Surah Waqi'ah, but as you continue through it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts bringing some examples, some parables. أَفَرَأَيْتُم مَا تَحْرُثُونَ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, have you seen that which you basically farm? And then he says something, أَأَنْتُمْ تَزْرَعُونَهُ أَمْ نَحْنُ الزَّارِعُونَ, are you the one who makes it so that it's harvestable? Are you the one who makes it so that you can take it out of the ground? Are you the one who does anything? Are you the one who tells the seed when it's put into the ground to sprout out? Do you do that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, or do I do that? And you begin to think to yourself, wow, you know what? I just put this in the ground, and what happens? I put a seed in the ground, and at the end of the day, it just grows. And it grows and grows until whatever plant I'm seeking comes. But I have no control. Once I put it in the darkness of the dirt, it's done, out of my hands. And if it grows, it grows. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, continuing later in the surah, says, أَفَرَأَيْتُمُ الْمَاءَ الَّذِي تَشْرَبُونَ, how about the water that you drink? Do you remember that? Do you think about that? أَأَنْتُمْ أَنزَلْتُمُوهُ مِنَ الْمُزْنِ أَمْ نَحْنُ الْمُنزِلُونَ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, are you the one who tells water where to go? Do you tell the rain clouds where they can end up going? Do you tell the rain clouds? Do you have control over that? Do you have a machine that you can decide, okay, rain's going to be here today, rain's going to be there? If that's the case, why do we have droughts anywhere? And see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, do you bring it down or do I bring it down? Do I tell the clouds where to go? Do I decide where rain can come? لَوْ نَشَاءُ جَعَلْنَاهُ أُجَاجًا فَلَوْلَا تَشْكُرُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala additionally says that if I wanted, I could have made it bitter. Why aren't you grateful? Why are you not grateful? You're focusing on something, trying to control things or worrying about things you have no control over, and you're not even doing the one thing you could do, which is be grateful. Because this water, at least when it does come down, it's going to be something that quenches your thirst. You can actually use it. It can benefit you. Versus, it could be, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted, it could have been made bitter. It could have been made acidic. And we never would have been able to use it. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, continuing on in Surah Waqi'ah, He says, أَفَرَأَيْتُمُ النَّارَ الَّتِي تُورُونَ. How about the fire that you ignite? This fire that you ignite. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that, أَأَنْتُمْ أَنْشَأْتُمْ شَجَرَتَهَا أَمْ نَحْنُ الْمُنْشِئُونَ. Did you create the fuel for this fire? Are you the one who created the fuel for this fire? In this particularly, it mentions the shajara, the tree, but really you can think about it in the sense of it could be the gas, it could be the any other resource that you use for fuel. Do you create this fuel or do I create this fuel? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. And this is all building up to a certain point. And then it gets to the most powerful part, at least for me, subhanAllah. Because then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it astoundingly clear. See, these verses come to kind of set you up. You start thinking about it. You begin to think that, okay, well, okay, so that which we harvest, well, yeah, I guess I don't have that much control. I thought I maybe did, but I guess I don't. How about the water? Wow, I really don't control that, do I? SubhanAllah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who tells the rain cloud where to go. Wow, I never even thought about the fuel to fire. I never thought about how that would work. I guess I don't have that control. So this is all building up. If you're sitting there and you're listening and you're reflecting, it constantly comes and it comes and it comes and it's hitting you. It's hitting you. It's hitting you. And then the most powerful part comes after having built it up. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَلَوْلَا إِذَا بَلَغَتِ الْحُلْقُومِ. When the time comes that your soul reaches to your throat, وَأَنْتُمْ حِينَئِذٍ تَنْظُرُونَ. And everybody is just right around you. And you can imagine the scene, imagine the picture that's being painted here. That you have an individual who is on their deathbed, right? Death has reached to their throat, which literally means that, okay, they're on their deathbed. The throes of death are upon them. They are so close to death. Everybody is standing around them. They are reciting Surah Yasin, doing whatever it is. وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ وَلَكِنْ مِنْكُمْ وَلَكِنْ لَا تُبْصِرُونَ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that I am closer. I am closer. We and my, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, my and my servants and all those who basically will control or who are put in charge of these things, angel of death and otherwise, are closer than even you are standing around this individual. But you just don't recognize. You're not able to see that. Now, these two verses that follow are the, subhanAllah, it's just the perfect way to seal this argument. And it's to the extent that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, once He mentions this, He does not continue on talking about it. He doesn't reference it again. He doesn't answer the question that He's posing because it's very clearly rhetorical. It's something that is meant for you to start to actually recognize and think by. And so after saying that we're closer, everybody standing around thinks they're so close, but we are even closer. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you just can't see. فَلَوْلَا إِن كُنْتُمْ غَيْرَ مَدِينِينَ. If you are not a slave to me, if you are not a slave, if you are not under the dominion, under the control of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if God Himself is not your true master, تَرْجِعُونَهَا إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Take your soul in that moment when everybody's surrounding you, when you're at the throes of death, you're ready to pass. Take your soul and put it back. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. See how much control you have? This is what this leads to. This is what this all builds to. Do you see how little control you truly have? Do we see how little control we truly have, subhanAllah? That, you know what? I don't control the food that is brought up from the earth for me. I don't decide whether or not the plants sprout. I don't decide whether water comes or not. I don't have nothing to do with the clouds and where they come from. And the things that I could light a fire with, that I would even use to cook the food that I have, I don't control that either. What do I control? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then says, so then go ahead. If you're so much in control, if you think you have such ability, take your soul and put it back when you're about to die. And that's the moment when it hits, subhanAllah. That can never happen. It's not something that is possible. There has never been an individual in history who has ever, in that moment, in the throes of death, taken their soul and said, go back. Irji'i, go back, my soul. It's not possible. And so that's the biggest thing for all of us, brothers and sisters, is that, we have to remember that whatever circumstances we're in, no matter how much control we truly do think that we do have, whether we're in the best of circumstances, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in control. If we're in the worst of circumstances, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is still in control. And so that's something that we should all reflect on, is that no matter what all is happening around us, no matter all the things that are going on that we have in our lives that we look at as bad or good, let's remember that however good it is, we're still not in the control. We're still not in the driver's seat, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one controlling things, right? And no matter how bad things are, it's the same thing. For all of us, inshallah, we can spend this next week taking the opportunity to reflect, to really think about, what it is that we can do to try and really build this mindset within ourselves. How can we prepare ourselves to be in a position that we really are able to, recognize the lack of control? And I think that the circumstances that are surrounding us right now is the actual perfect opportunity for that. Because the thing that is by far more concerning to every single person right now, the thing that is on everybody's mind is death. And the Prophet ﷺ himself says that remember death, the destroyer of all pleasures. Remember it often. And the reason for this is it's not to make yourself fatalistic. It's not to make yourself scared or anything. The point is to be realistic. If we remember that our time on this earth will come to an end, guaranteed, it's in our public conscience right now because of the fact that this COVID-19 is spreading and it's causing so much destruction. It's in the public eye. It's in our minds and in front of us right now. But that may be then an opportunity for us to think, what? Let me reflect on what perhaps I have done in my life to prepare for the moment when I stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because I truly have no idea when I'm going to go. It's not within my control. That's not my purview. And this situation really highlights that better than anything else. That we do so many things. We have big homes. We have, we've spent money on our health insurance, and we have, a doctor that we go to, and we take vitamins and all these things. But at the end of the day, when you have something that is as dispassionate as a pandemic or a virus like this, it doesn't matter, right? If the healthcare system is overrun and all these things are just not in our control. So what is really key is to do our part. And of course, mind you, I'm not saying anything about not social distancing. Please, and I sincerely mean this, because I do know that there are places that are still not complying with a lot of these regulations. Please continue to social distance. Please continue to stay at home if you can. Go out only if you absolutely have to, because it's not worth it, right? Even though we don't control what's going to happen, we still have to take the steps that we have in front of us. That's the key, brothers and sisters. That's what's most important. And so think about that, right? We have to think about that. We have to also then reflect on our own mortality. Reflect on the fact that perhaps any day could be my last, truly. And right now, it's much easier to consider that than it might be otherwise. So reflect and prepare accordingly. I know that, oftentimes there's not a big, there's sometimes a hesitance to get prepared on things like estate planning or otherwise. But this is important. No matter what stage of life we're in, we should have prepared those things. We should be in a position where if something, na'udhu billah, may Allah protect us all, if something were to happen to us, that our families are taken care of, that we're prepared for that inevitability in some ways. But the question is just when. So the reminder, brothers and sisters, at the end of the day is for all of us, let's inshallah try, not in a morbid way, but in a beautiful way, reflect on death. Let's reflect on the fact that it could come at any point. And as Muslims, walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, we are so blessed that we are guaranteed, at some point, guaranteed, inshallah, paradise. That's the goal at the end of the day. We're sacrificing now for something bigger and better at the end of the day. And remember that. Remember the akhirah. Remember standing and think about standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Think about answering for your deeds. And ask yourself, perhaps, where am I not comfortable? What is it that I have done that maybe I won't feel comfortable asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, answering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for? And ask for forgiveness for those things. Right? For all of us, inshallah, reflect on death, reflect on this time that we're living in, and reflect on and take this opportunity, and I mean it when I say this, brothers and sisters, take this as an opportunity, because you can take it as something negative or you can take it as something bad. The choice is up to us. And so take it as an opportunity and reflect and ask yourself where you can improve. And please, again, social distance. Continue to social distance. Do your part to be able to help stem the tide of this pandemic. At the end of the day, brothers and sisters, what happens with us is not in our control, but what is in our control is what we do. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us tawfiq. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us for our shortcomings. I would like to remind you all, inshallah, that inevitably, we are thinking about ourselves, but there are still so many out there who are more in need than us. We're having a virtual fundraiser, inshallah, on March 29th, this Sunday at 3 p.m. Central Time. And so, and that's 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please remember this, inshallah. Join us if you can. Sheikh Abdul Nasser will be there. Sheikh Abdul Nasser Jang's my teacher. Sheikh Yasser Burjas, Jeremy McClellan will be there. It's a great opportunity to just be a part of something that's a little bit bigger than us right now. I know we're missing that, but come join us, as well as donate if you can. Whatever you can, just donate. And remember that there are those who are more in need and they still need us. And if you want more information, you go to hhrd.org/they still need us. Barakallahu feekum wa assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh wa sallallahu ala sayyidina wa nabina wa Muhammadin wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam ajma'in.